Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Deeper Level. And listen, we are live again tonight with another state of Suicide Squad podcast. And let me tell you, we've got a banger for you tonight. I'm super excited about our guest that's going to be coming on in just a second. But y'all already know how we do. We're going to go ahead and shout out to the chat. I see some people are already pulling up to the podcast, and I certainly appreciate your support. Make sure that you take this time right now to like and subscribe. Listen, if you're watching us over on Twitch, on the purple side, make sure you hit that follow button. Also, if you are an Amazon Prime member, some people do know this, some people don't, unless you've been living under a rock. But still, I want to go ahead and throw it out there. If you are an Amazon Prime member, you can actually sub to the channel absolutely free. They give you one sub a month that you can sub to your favorite Twitch streamer. So we hope that would be us. If that's us, go ahead and hit that sub button on the purple side. If you're on the red side on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I'm live and more content becomes available right here on the Deeper Level. Listen, it has been an amazing week, an interesting week to say the least, and we're going to get into all of that tonight, especially with our roundtable discussion with the panelists that are going to be on the podcast. I can't wait to dive into these topics and just have this open discussion. I want to shout out to the chat right now. My guy Nate Clips is in the building, man. What is up, Nate? What's going on, bro? Hope your day is going well. Splash 6411, how are you doing tonight? All is well on this end, and I'm telling you, my guests are ready tonight, so we're gonna have some fun. Taladia Plays has pulled up and in the building. What is up, Taladia? Man, appreciate you. Shout out to Taladia because he was actually on one of our first podcasts that we started doing with the state of Suicide Squad. Marvel 0123 is in the building. Mr. Billy Flynn, shout out to you, sir. Billy Finn, excuse me. Captain, hey man, I gotta throw your comment on the screen, bro. Shield Force X rise up. I know, man. We are all shields who are in the in the house today. In fact, I was talking about that with one of our guests. You know, if you remotely even say you like anything about this game, people are coming for you. I mean, I don't even know if Avengers was that bad. That's what we were talking about. But anyway, my guy Kierion is in the building. What's up, Kierion? Rage is here. What's going on, Rage? That's it. Come on, let's go, y'all. Pull up, pull up. That's it. Bats, what's up, my man? Yes, sir. So check it out. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold up, y'all. We got Miller in the building. Now, check this out. As we near towards the lunch, I actually want to get Miller on the podcast. So this is kind of like an open invitation, Miller. So if you're listening right now, man, either next week or the week after that or something like that, man, we got to have you come through and just holler at us on the podcast, man. Just appreciate everything that, you know, you've done with the community and for the community. Ebony Latoya, my wife is in the building. What is up, babe? Let's see who else we got. Red Eye Joe is here. Unseeable Ghost has pulled up. That's what I'm talking about. Texas VO is in the building. Tom Cabler, let's go, man. So again, appreciate each and every one of y'all. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm going to start bringing in some of my guests right quick. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up. All right, let's go. Let's go. So here's what we got, y'all. We got an amazing squad in the building tonight. So I want to welcome our first guest here on the podcast for the first time. I actually have been trying to book this young man to come on the Deeper Level for quite some time now, but a lot of times there's schedule conflicts, and so we just didn't have the opportunity to do it. And so this was kind of like a spur of the moment, last minute thing, and I hated to even reach out, you know, at such short notice because he has so much going on with his channel, thousands upon thousands of subscribers, and he's got a lot going on. So I was like, hey, man, let me just try and see if he's available, if I can get him on. And lo and behold, we were able to secure him for today. So help me welcome to the Deeper Level for the first time. Many of you may know him as Podcast Now, but he goes by the name of Alex. Welcome to the Deeper Level for the first time. Alex, how you doing today, buddy?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been a fan of yours. I've watched your stuff. You're a great guy, very down to earth, respectful, all that. Yeah, I don't think you bring in the controversy as much as I do. I'm very, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'm glad we're able to do this. And I love the shill one, shill unite or whatever rise up. That was
Yeah.
great. That was fantastic.
Yes, sir. Cap Tay, man, he's a regular on the channel, and so we just, we appreciate him to death, man. I mean, he's for the game. We always pick at each other,
Yeah.
everything in fun, man. Also, listen, we're going to be getting your thoughts in just a second. I want to bring our next panelist to the Deeper Level podcast for the first time. Of course, he is no stranger to this channel. He's no stranger to the Deeper Level community, but this is the first time having him on the podcast. So I'm really appreciative that we had a chance to get him and secure him tonight. Help me welcome my very next special guest. Mr. Nava Flow is in the building. What's up, Nava?
Yo, what's going on?
Yes, sir, man. Awesome, man.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I can hear you perfect, man. Can't see you, but I can hear you. But hey, man, appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate you for coming on. I want to bring our next guest.
We got a lot of wind.
Yeah, I understand, man. I know the weather is actually bad here where I'm at in Texas. So school and everything is probably going to be canceled tomorrow because we've already got the winter mix. So yeah, man, it's going to be a perfect day for gaming. So I'm glad I don't have to go to work. But my next special guest on the podcast, again, he's no stranger to the Deeper Level community. He is also an active content creator for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And again, he has been, bringing the controversy, fighting against the controversy, the whole 9 yards, man. He's encountered it all. So help me welcome my very special guest, Mr. King Greek is in the building. What's up, King?
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Man, we are doing wonderful. Hey, Sadat the Gamer just pulled up, y'all. Yes, sir. AKA Shield Gang. What's up,
This is
man?
not helping my image.
Right. Yeah, this ain't helping your image at all, bro. So check it out, man. It's been a big week for the community, for the game, just in general. A lot got revealed, of course. The content creators' lives, all went live and were able to post their information. Also, the NDA for those of us who played the alpha test also lifted, and we were able to, post kind of our thoughts. And then, of course, IGN released their video in classic IGN fashion. And, some of their complaints was the fact that, the Flash was too fast. I mean, he is the Flash. He does run at Mach 1 speed. He is the God speedster in the comics. So I don't even see how that was a complaint, but nevertheless, it was a complaint. So let's just kind of talk about the state of Suicide Squad. What are your thoughts, Alex? Kind of kicking it to you first, just about this week in general, everything that was shown. Of course, they hosted a live Q&A session, the developers and Rocksteady, which I think they handled really, really well. They did release a lot of information. Some things I didn't think we would get to know this soon. I didn't know they were happening, but, I'm so glad that those things were revealed. But just as far as the state of the game, what are your overall thoughts so far?
Well, this was the floodgates being open, this week. Up until this week, Miller Ross and all that, kind of pioneering it. And then, yeah, I'm very happy they let us talk. That was something that I made a specific video on. I think everybody on planet Earth, that was somewhat interested in this game were tweeting that, right? Let us talk about this game. And I almost look at it as a way of combating. And that was the narrative, right, that was brought up. And that was Hogwarts Legacy, was the one. And that was WB Games too. Just went right over the journalists, went to the creators, and we all, applauded it. So I'm happy that they let us do it. And I do think that was literally to combat the pretty negative press. It was bad when people were able to talk about it. And I think the real response to it is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Not super terrible, not super in love. It's probably right down. And so it was a good balancing act. IGN being IGN. Look, I said this I think I talked about these previews in general. One thing I'll throw out, it's okay, I think, if you're going after the way the mechanics are. And I do think that was the intent, but they, much like they always, they royally messed that up, right? It was more about their skill level, more about whining than I think getting across that maybe the boss fight itself is just not done well, right? Not mechanically done. And so if you look at it like that, it's not terrible. But of course, I mean, I love bashing them. So that was a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. I do too, man. And here's the thing. IGN is such a large media outlet, with I think like 17 million subscribers, so they've got a lot of reach. Now, me personally, I stopped really paying attention to any IGN reviews probably 5 years ago. Even watching some of the individuals play the game, I always go back to Spider-Man DLC for Marvel's Avengers. Clearly, whoever was playing Spider-Man did not know how to play the game. So, I've never really listened to what they said. I just take it with a grain of salt. I always try to experience it by myself. But again, like you said, I think that it was a great idea to lift the NDA to allow the players, to give their points of view. Now, I will say that everyone who was flown out to play the game early in LA, Lejeune. Matter of fact, shout out to my guy Lejeune. He's actually in the chat right now. J Shock Blast, Caboose, some of those other individuals. Jarv was also flown out. Or he got to go by the studio, I believe, and play it early as well. But one thing that I did want to say too, for Lejeune, just shout out to him. All of the creators did a phenomenal job with their presentations, with how their videos was edited. But personally, I got the most out of what Lejeune had to say because I had already alpha tested the game myself. So I knew what the game felt like. I wasn't really looking for gameplay as much. I was looking for some of the other mechanics, some of the other quality of life features. And that's one of the things that Lejeune really pointed out, like the cool feature to basically take somebody's character and power form
He
and
broke
power
that
level.
story before they did the Q&A, and then nobody, credited him for it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And he broke that. So that's kind of what I was saying in one of my videos that I tagged him on in my page, that I think Lejeune did the best job with telling all of the people who played the alpha things beyond what we already knew. So again, shout out to him. But again, everybody did a great job, but I was most interested in hearing some of the extra tidbits that he dropped. Nava Flow, man, tell us kind of what your state is right now of Suicide Squad after everything we've seen this week. Where's your head at?
After everything we've seen, I'm more excited for the game. Like you said, Lejeune went into detail with everything that he got to play and what he saw. So I'm excited for that. I do like the idea of somebody, if you're not able to play, somebody can help your character out, because depending on the week, people are busy too. They got other lives. So that definitely helps out too. And yeah, from what I played from the alpha myself, I definitely enjoyed it, and some of my cousins actually did too.
Awesome. Cool deal, man. So now did you actually get to play the alpha with someone else, or did you just do single player? As far as Nava. And again, he's got some bad
my
weather.
first run, I did single player, and then the other the other times that I did play was with like
Oh, no. Leaving in suspense.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And which I know he's got some bad weather where he is. So again, I just appreciate him sticking to the commitment to still come on. I know it's windy there and it's really, really crazy. He's having some internet issues, but we'll skip to King Greek right quick, man. King Greek, what are your thoughts, man? I know, again, you've been called everything in the book, man. You've been called the Shield, paid by WB, just the whole deal, man. But overall, where is your thoughts about Suicide Squad post everything that we've seen this week?
As Alex mentioned earlier, with the floodgates opening, that right there should be reason enough alone to back up the statement. This is why you don't trust reviewers' opinions as much as people do, even the good ones, because like what screw whatever IGN did. People forget that Game Informer, GameSpot, there are a couple of other reviewers that have they have their concerns, yes, but they've definitely spoken about the game in a more positive light. Even if they are good, our opinion is really where it comes to matter, because now that it's out and we're all talking about it, people are starting to realize that everything that's being presented about the game, because that's one thing I kind of haven't necessarily liked, is how the promotion is being handled. Because when the game got in our hands, that's really where the biggest boost of positivity came from. But in regards to how they were doing things, kind of shaky. Overall, this week was it was a mess, but in a good way. We definitely had some issues. I think really the next question now is how is this mess going to translate over into that third Insider episode?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So we still, after all that we've gotten and all that was revealed from the Q&A, and again, we got to look at the fact that, they spend millions of dollars on marketing as well as a strategy for marketing. So as much as they've said in the Q&A, and we're going to go over some of that stuff in just a little bit, about the Paragon system and, the no gear levels, because I mean, a lot of stuff was really dropped this week. Even still, they're holding back, because that's one of the things that the creators were saying the whole time. And, even J Shock Blast on the podcast last week, he was saying that, WB is holding back. Like, they're still not telling us everything. So the fact that they have a whole nother Suicide Squad Insider getting ready to drop episode 3, which is going to be covering post-launch support, I think that's really, really big to drop that episode. Alex, what are your thoughts on this next and final episode of them going over post-launch support? Because I'm pretty sure there's probably still a group of people that are not sold. Me personally, I'm sold. I'm getting the game no matter what. It's already pre-ordered. But how vital do you feel that this next episode is to really winning over those people that are still undecided?
Yeah, I think it can probably settle some conversations. Like, one of the last elements of this is afterwards. Like, not even, and that's where I've even moved on from, like, what I talk about is like, you can say whatever you want on the base game, but like, I'm getting the base game. It's how the gameplay, will it last months and months? And I've never been sold on that once. So those are the things that I hope this, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I feel like actually most people have probably made up their mind. It's just more about the conversation of, okay, what can we expect going forward? Is it still going to be fun? The Joker thing has made people say, I'm sure in all of our videos or even on Twitter and stuff, that people that weren't going to get the game, hey, if Joker's included, maybe they will. I'm sure they can win over people with certain DLC characters or locations. But I think it's more about, for me, it's about scheduling. Is this like a monthly thing? Is this a,
Right.
How you I mean, they've talked about unlocking, like, none of it's going to be paid, but actually, you know what, they haven't really. They've talked about that you don't have to pay for characters, but isn't it like in game you have to do something in the game? That is still back, and like, you can totally mess that up. Like Battlefront had that where the currency was all messed up in the game. So I'd love to know that, like, what do you actually have to do to unlock whoever? So those are the things that they have got to answer. But but it's all on afterwards. Like, I feel like the talk is already the talk, and you're either getting the game or not getting it now. And then this is just, what do we expect in April and May and June from it?
Absolutely. One of the things that I kind of talked about schedule wise, the way that I would do it, if I were in control, is I would launch the initial game. Maybe a month after, I would drop some type of DLC on a 30-day schedule. And then from that point, at least every 90 days, sooner would be ideal, but I don't think you could go, a quarter without dropping something. That's just a dangerous thing, because that was going back to Marvel's Avengers. They just couldn't keep the momentum. It would take 6 or 7 months for a DLC character to drop, and they would just lose the momentum because you got to come out swinging.
Right. And most of these games, they'll peak. Something will come out, like if it's a shooter, right, a map or whatever. They'll peak for like a week and then they'll drop off again. And people have very short attention spans. And so, yeah, if you do that once every 4 months, you're going to get people for a week, and then you have to wait 4 more months. At least if you do a monthly, there's a week every month where there's some big excitement. So I don't know why they don't do that,
Absolutely. Hopefully this will be different. What are your thoughts, King Greek, on, maybe kind of your thoughts on how often, we should see DLC or how that should be executed?
Now, the sweet spot to me personally would be around 3 months. And it's not even because of how the battle pass system is structured, because just in case people don't know, we're gonna have a total of, I would say, 4 seasons. Let's just say we're gonna have 4 seasons throughout the year, and they're gonna be 3 months apiece. So 12 months in a year, 4 seasons, and 3 months for each season. Now, there's usually the sweet spot with DLC and a lot of other games because it's like there's still there's more than enough time to work on content, especially if you already got a good portion of it ready in the backlog. People can leave, come back, check people can leave, go check on their other games and come back, and then they come back those couple months later. They can still jump back in, get a head start on the new content, and it's also a bit easier now because knowing what we know about the gear, for example, not having any levels, you don't have to worry about being locked out of certain content or not being strong enough to be able to do certain content. So you can easily just come back and jump straight in. The thing is with the third Insider episode, it's definitely going to be make or break for a lot of people because while we've all had the chance to play the game, we've enjoyed it. The base game itself is definitely fun. The post-launch content is a different story because if what's coming, isn't worth our time, we're gonna have to have that Avengers conversation again because a lot of people are still on the fence because of that. Because like I want to play this, but I also want to make sure I'm not wasting my time because Avatar just came out, Grand Blue Fantasy is about to come out. These are other games that I can afford to wait on to put my time into. I just want to make sure I'm making the right decision.
Absolutely. Which Grand Blue Fantasy Relink demo is live now on PS5. I just downloaded it yesterday, so I'm looking forward to playing that. Nava, want to kick this question to you, man. If you're able to answer it, what are your thoughts about DLC and post-launch content as far as the scheduling of it?
Like Green Greek said, the sweet spot for me is every 3 months as well. Another thing I like to know, I don't know if they answered this or not. How would season pass works? Would it be like Fortnite? Like if you missed out on a season to finish it, you missed out, or are they doing like Halo? Like you can go back to a different battle pass from back then. That's another question I still have.
That's in the next.
Yes,
they did say that.
Yes,
that's one of the things they're talking about in the next Insider episode, post launch, and more stuff about the monetization.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, sir. So that is definitely on the way. So again, as it has all been collectively agreed on, there are still some questions and loose ends to tie up naturally with this next Suicide Squad Insider episode 3. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We have our first question that is coming from Splash 3039 on Twitter, and he wanted to ask the panel this question: how are they going to handle having Brainiac as the main villain, even with post-launch, without having comparisons to Avengers and AIM? Also can't wait for the discussion today. Yeah, so that's his question, because kind of like with Avengers, AIM was always a thing. AIM was always the force behind everything in the game. If I had to speculate on what he's hinting to and what he's asking is, do you guys think that it would be wise to move beyond Brainiac in the post-launch content? Like not have him always be the main villain, actually get an opportunity to take him down and defeat him, and then the next threat comes in. What are your thoughts on that?
Controversially, I would say I agree with what you just said, that I think they should move on. And that's just me. Like, that goes to the more you're buying the base game, I expect it to be a base game, right? Like It needs to be a game. If you're going to complete the villain arc 2.5 years later in season 18, that's just not my kind of, that's where the live service, how I always say I don't like it. That's why, so yeah, but the sad thing is, I guess, against me, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like Brainiac's going to be a thing, and he is the reason why we're going to get DLC characters and different maps. So I don't think you're going to take him out, and I guess I'll just have to suck it up.
Gotcha. King Greek, what are your thoughts on Brainiac potentially being the greatest threat moving forward?
I mean, I do definitely agree with Alex in the sense of like you reach a certain point where you just want another villain because it kind of gets tiresome. But I feel like the only upside to that possibly is if Brainiac manages to stick around for that long, if the story is good enough, to support it. I feel like that can make up for him being the overarching villain as long as possible, because take that MCU as an example. We have all these side stories going on in the background, but side stories going on in the forefront, but Thanos was always the main character set up in the back. And maybe for post-launch content, it seems maybe Brainiac might take that kind of role. But in terms of like the whole comparison to AIM and how Avengers did things, the only reason why I think it might not necessarily pan out that way is because they in the Q&A they mentioned how Brainiac also follows the trend of him capturing and bottling worlds.
Right.
I feel like that right there is the easiest way to introduce new enemy types very so often, because with these new cities and worlds that he's bringing in and stuff is being stacked onto Metropolis, like the Joker takeover of the Daily the Daily Planet that we saw. New enemy types can be introduced with whatever the villain of the week is, or whatever Brainiac decides to do during that DLC expansion or whatever it is it may be. So like there's a couple of ways that they can necessarily go with this, but at the end is like I said, as long as the story is decent, I don't really mind too much.
Gotcha. Exactly. Keep it engaging. Again, he's that overarching threat the whole time, but in the process of that happening, still mix in and throw in other things kind of happening in the forefront while all of that is going on in the background. Got it. Nava Flow, man, what are your thoughts about, do we need to move on from Brainiac? In the process of me asking this question, a couple of people have been commenting. Hoarder Gamer, for instance, says, I expect Brainiac gone at the end of the first year. What are your thoughts on Brainiac continuing to be a threat to the Suicide Squad? Do you feel like we should take him out, or, he should hang around?
I mean, after the year, I know people are gonna want somebody different, maybe like Darkseid or Mongol, maybe do like a crossover with World or War World. Sorry, maybe we could see that, or like I said, Darkseid, bring in different villains like enemy types, like the Parademons, or maybe even the Paradooms. If you've seen that movie, probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, after the first year, people are probably gonna get tired of fighting these like what do people call them? Like these bubbly kind of villains or something?
Yeah, basically the faction that's already there. Again, same thing with Avenger. The AIM robots just it was overwhelming with how long they stuck around and never added, a different enemy type. So they definitely can't go that route. But here's the thing about Suicide Squad, and this is what I got to give them kudos. Out the gate, it's almost as if they studied and did research on why a lot of other looter shooters failed. Avengers specifically, it's almost as if they've already spoken to a lot of the things that some of the other games didn't do. They're coming out the gate in the base game doing it. So let's just kind of look at, and we'll talk about these things, what they're already introducing initially in the game. So they've already kind of talked about 2 in-game missions that have been revealed for Suicide Squad. So they're talking about incursions and killing time, which are basically horde mode missions. Then there's solo 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player groups, and it has leaderboards. Now, incursion missions, the squad gets teleported to Brainiac's domain and have to fight their way through Brainiac's forces, often with the help of the support squad, to make it back to Metropolis. But once the mission is completed, the Promethean shield goes down, so the squad has to leg it, and emphasizing the suicide in the suicide mission. So it looks like there are those mechanics there that are going to be implemented in the game where everybody has to play their part. Everybody has to pay attention. Everybody has to do, a certain role in order to complete these missions. Just coming out the gate, Alex, how important do you think it is for them to have released, even ahead of the next episode, talking about post-launch support, just to have even given us a sneak peek at some of the in-game missions that are available? Is horde mode a good thing?
Yeah, I think they get it. And that's the That's the nuance kind of conversation that people don't want to have, right? It's either love or hate. They, I think, understand the situation they're in. I do think they were grasping at the popular model, and they did it, late, way late. And so now they're kind of playing from behind and saying, all right, well, but yet again, you can look at it as a positive, like you just said. Like, you can look at the failures and say, yeah, this is maybe not the move that people thought we were going to do, but at least we can look at what failed and come out saying the right things and
Yes.
doing some of the, and then it's just all up to the gameplay. So yeah, they've been pretty open, they were open like a year ago before they did the delay of characters in the free kind of model. Like, they were saying that a year ago in February, whenever it was. So I think they understand like the eyes that are on them and what's being said, but I think they're doing all the right thing with content right away. And that's why I'm pretty confident like we're going to get a very solid release schedule. To me, it's always just been about the gameplay loop. Like that, you can have 500 modes, but if the gameplay doesn't hold up, and that's just, people need to try it, right? And we need to see if it works. So I think they're doing the right thing for sure.
Absolutely. I'm totally agreeing with that. King Greek, man, what are your thoughts just on all of the information that they've been sharing with us? Because we've received like a plethora of information, and the game is not even out yet. So far, they've done a whole lot more than games who have come, before their time. So they're definitely get it. It seems like they're listening to the community. And again, a live service game, there's going to be a need for hot fixes and patches. There's going to be quirks. There's going to be bugs. Nothing is going to ever released, in a perfect state just in this generation. But what are your thoughts on what they've showed us so far?
Well, for starters, we are already starting off in a much better position than both Avengers and Gotham Knights. We have some features in the game that I don't care regardless of what anybody on Twitter or on the internet thinks they know about game development and in live service games. There are two things we have already that are not commonplace or industry standard for live service games. One of them is the Paragon system, outside of games like Division and Diablo. And then the second one is the social squad feature, which lets you pull in other AI characters to play with you. That right there is already a game changer in and out of itself. Because because look, you're a bit you a busy man. I see you on Twitter all the time with the fancy cars, having a lavish, elder, successful black man lifestyle. You can't play the game all the time, but you have people who can pull your AI character in. They can play with your character. You come back home after a long day of work and hanging out with the missus. Boom, you got some rewards and gear sitting in your inbox. That's a way to essentially, like, I'm not gonna say it's a big change, but it's at the same time, we don't know how much stuff you'll get from it, but it is a nice little incentive. Like, even when I'm away, I can still come back and have something new on my inbox. And I didn't have this notorious weapon. I didn't have this legendary weapon. It's cool. I can put that in my loadout. It might benefit me. And then the whole the gear not having any levels, which as we found out, was one of the things that was done in the most recent delay. They got rid of all the levels from the gear, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a very great thing because they don't. We've all played Avengers. We all know how I feel. Oh, okay, the raid is coming. Like, the raid is coming. I need to play the game for like 2 weeks straight just to try and get as much gear as possible so I can be ready to do the raid. And then even when I do the raid, the gear I got, even though it's the right level, it's still not strong enough. So I'm still finna get smacked 7 ways Sunday. It's not like that. It's like you can get good gear early on in the game, but then you can just take that with you. You don't gotta worry about having to meet the requirements for anything. Like Rocksteady. This is showing that Rocksteady isn't afraid to take chances in switching up the playbook when it comes to how some mechanics in a live service would be. Now,
correct.
Some of them we still don't know fully about yet. Others, some still might not like. But what you can't say is that they aren't trying to push the envelope as much as they can, because because the live service genre has become very saturated over the past couple of years. At this point, trying to push the conversation forward with innovative changes is almost the kind of thing that needs to happen with pretty much any new live service. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
you just get compared to all of the preview games that's before. You have to be able to do something that makes you stand out from the others. And already with the Rocksteady, regardless of if the game is good or bad, the social squad system and the level is gear are already two very big things gameplay wise that are helping it to stand out from some of the other games in the genre. So it's all good. Like I want to see more. I need to see how it all works in its entirety. But just already, this like it's good. It looks good.
Has any other game done that? The pulling in.
I've never seen it.
One other game has. I can't remember the name of it, but I have played it before. The only difference was you could pull in an AI character to play with you, but that was just it. They didn't get any rewards or gear or anything. Their AI character could just play with you.
Yeah. I'm unfamiliar with the genre, so I don't know if it seems very unique and original. I mean,
okay.
So I don't know. Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the same thing. They do have the pawn system, but I don't think that's the same. Theirs was very innovative back then for sure, though.
Yeah, I personally haven't seen it before. Now, something Jenny Love is saying, I'm going to pull her comment up on screen. And the reason this is significant is because I probably played Final Fantasy 11 for probably 17 years. Okay. So I know there was a system on that where you could send items and gear to people in their inbox and stuff like that. But as far as pulling their character in and leveling for them, actually, that's what they used to call power leveling. And the reason I know that is because I actually used to be in a link shell in Final Fantasy 11 with guys who basically provided a service that they would power level your character. Like you could give them your information and pay them a fee, and they would log onto your character and do a fight for you and get you all the gear. So just for them to pull this system in and incorporate it with the social squad, like this is like a grinder's dream. Okay, just to be able to do this. So this is very unique and innovative. Now, no gear levels. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's huge. So when I was playing the alpha, and I'm so glad the NDA is lifted because I can talk about this, and I'll get your thoughts, Nav, on this next. But I personally got 2 legendary weapons while I was playing the alpha, and I got an SMG. You got 5. Oh my goodness. So 2 legendaries, a SMG, and then a sniper, and of course I was playing with Deadshot. Now, I couldn't realize why the weapon was so powerful until now, after the fact they've said there's no gear levels. But I kept thinking when I had the gun, and I even took pictures of them. Of course, I wasn't going to post the pictures, but I had them just so that I would know the name of the weapon, so I'd know what I'm farming for when the game comes out. But man, this SMG was just so strong, and now I get it that even though I was a low level, the weapon doesn't really go by a leveling system.
It's just the perks. It's just the perks and the stats. That's it.
Exactly. And I think that is the best way to do it, because like you said on Avengers, you would spend all your time grinding for something, you would get it, and the level was too low, and you'd have to start the grind over to try to get it again. Novaflow, did you ever encounter any legendary weapons on your playthrough in the alpha?
Yes, I did. Like you, I was maining Deadshot, so I did get a legendary sniper and a SMG.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, and that SMG, man, was gas. I mean, it was super powerful. I mean, the criticals on it, and I'm trying to remember the stats right offhand, but it was amazing. Now, did you actually play the alpha, Alex?
Yeah, I played.
Okay.
I don't think I played it nearly as much as you guys or the internet, but no, I enjoyed the combat. I thought it was pretty fun for what it was and for the time I did it. Again, it's just more about, can it get me for like months in the future? But that one I almost like defer to what I've seen of like other people, because again, I'm not into that kind of genre. But the comparison, like Borderlands has been coming up quite a bit, and Borderlands, the story and then some of the stuff that they've done recently has been terrible, but early on Borderlands, awesome. And I think if you try to mimic, I mean, Sunset Overdrive too, right? Sunset Overdrive in terms of the movement, and then Borderlands in terms of the looter shooter. If you can successfully do it, then I think you're going to be pretty okay.
Absolutely. If you can pull that off. And the thing is too, like, just from everything I saw before we got to play the alpha, even from what they had just shown as far as the traversal looked cool. I mean, it looked like they nailed it. But after playing the alpha, the traversal feels amazing. Like, that was huge. Because, you know, the traversal again on Avengers, you know, certain characters running slow, Hulk not jumping, you know, high enough. I mean, they really nailed traversal in this game. Now, Connor Pearson Ward, one of the people in the chat, I wanted to pull his comment up on screen. He actually got a legendary melee piece for Deadshot that did 0 base damage, but it increased critical chance and damage on the affected enemy. I personally didn't encounter any legendary melee pieces, but just to know that they exist is huge. So thanks for that comment, Connor, because that's really, really good to know. And with the build that I was currently working on in the alpha, crit chance was super important, you know, to what I was kind of putting together. But that's another thing. I can't wait to see all of the builds that are going to come out of this. And somebody said, Captay, shout out to Borderlands and Sunset Overdrive from what Alex was saying. Yes, sir. Those were 2 incredible games. So let's just kind of talk about what Suicide Squad has already done at the base launch of the game. So there's Paragon Systems, there's no gear levels, there's an evolving Metropolis with the story and post-launch seasons. There's good gear perks, perk reroll and crafting stats. There's loadouts. All right. Loadouts. So let's talk about that for a second, because I don't see how you do a live service game without loadouts. But strangely enough, games have released over the last several years that didn't do loadouts.
Destiny.
So let's talk about how big that is by itself. They're getting a lot of things right.
Avengers.
Avengers, exactly. There was a button for loadouts, but no actual loadouts. But anyway, that's a whole another conversation. But wouldn't you agree, Alex? I mean, isn't it important when you're working on different builds and a looter in general to have loadouts?
Oh yeah, especially this game, like you said, complementing each other and, like, you know, learning what you're good at and what somebody else, and that's really, I think, where it'll shine if you put the work in, right? The effort. And that, even myself, like, I'm hesitant to, like, jump all the way. And I think that's what people are kind of missing too, when you kind of gloss over it, is I think when you do this game deeper and when you put in the time, and probably when you're playing it like the right way. I don't like to throw like that phrase out, right? Because you're buying it, you kind of play it your own way, but there is probably a way the game wants you to do it, you know? And
exactly.
if you do it that way, I think it's going to be quite good. And that is the builds. That is, you know, trying to match, well, not fill in the blanks of the other characters, the weaknesses, right? You have their strengths. That's where this game is probably going to shine. You just have to, like, work at it, which is something I'm even hesitant, honestly, to do.
Absolutely. And the thing about working at it, especially once you get into the end game with these builds, and this is why I like live service games so much. And again, you know, this goes all the way back to Final Fantasy 11, is because I cannot wait to see the master builders and some of the creators, what all they're going to come up with. Because here's the thing. Most of the time in these type of games, the creators, the people who really game and play this game, are going to crack the code. And what I mean by that, there's always going to be something on the game that people learn how to use that the developers didn't intend for you to use it that way. Now, that may make it get nerfed, but still, for instance, going back to Final Fantasy 11, they never meant for ninjas to be a tank. They wanted paladins tanking, they wanted warriors tanking, but people learned how to use the blinking system, the shadows that Ninja had, and actually tank notorious monster bosses. So again, every game I've always seen somebody crack the code and figure out something of what to mix with this and match with that. So I just can't wait to see what builds, what people come up with, what people are going to be able to do with the characters. I think that's super, super important. So So let's keep going. So we've got loadouts, we've got good traversal and weapons, we've got the social squad feature, and all of these are base lunch features that are built in. Horde mode and strikes. First season of DLC has already been teased. Cross play, cross progression. Let's park right there. That's the only way to do a live service game, in my opinion. Cross play is one thing, but then cross progression should be standard. Now, I don't know what it takes to do that technologically, why more games don't do that, but to be able to pick up where you left off on a different platform, I think that's huge, you know, because we've got people that are multiple system owners, got different consoles. You know, maybe you're on over a friend's house, want to get into your account, whatever the case is. But what are your thoughts on that, NavaFlow, about us having cross progression and cross play?
That's awesome too, because before I pre-ordered on PlayStation, I was like, where should I pre-order this? Should I get on this on Xbox, PC,
Right.
PlayStation? That's awesome. I got friends who play on Xbox or PC who played this on the alpha who I played with, and man, that was a blast.
Oh yeah, that's huge. Alex, what are your thoughts, man, on cross play and cross progression?
Big into it. Crossplay, you know, needs to be there. I thought, you know, we had gone through that whole era, you know, where it's just totally unacceptable. Now, you know, it's standard. And then the always online thing, it definitely like hangs over it. But you don't need always on. You could go online to sync it, right? And then that would be the only time you need to. And so that easy fix, I would say, that's not a really big deal. But yeah, like you said, going to a friend's house or, you know, on the go or, you know, whatever through PC, or is it Steam Deck, or like you might be able to play this handheld wise, right? So
Yes.
I think that's a huge benefit. And especially, again, for a game like this, you want to play it for years. You're supposed to play it all the time. So you're not always going to be at, you know, next to your console. It's needed. And again, it's just another sign of like preparation, like they're ready. I wonder how many of these things they would have had ready if it came out last year like it was supposed to. Probably half. Probably half the things.
I totally agree. So, like, as much as it hurt to see them make that announcement that day, because I mean, I literally thought the game was coming. They did the PlayStation State of Play. They showed like 15 minutes worth of footage or whatever the case was. And we just knew that we were getting the game. And then when they came back and said, well, you know, we regret to announce blah, 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 blah. As much as that hurt, I still kept saying, if they're delaying the game for almost a year, then there's a lot that they want to rework, a lot that they want to rethink. Now, I didn't think that the base game would change in the sense that it was going to go from being a shooter into all of this melee combat. A lot of people were expecting that, but you just can't do that in 10 months. You know, you would have to just scrap it would take years to just totally overhaul the game. So I knew that wasn't going to happen because that wasn't enough time to make that happen. But let me ask you this question, and this is a unique question. How much time, and I want to get each one of your opinions on this. How much time, how long does this game need to last for it to be considered a success? Because see, here's the thing about live service games. Now, you know, I know some live service games have gone now for 15, 20 years. All right. I think it would probably be unrealistic to expect that. But if you had to just throw a timeline out there, you know, whether that's 3 years, 5 years, because its success is going to be contingent upon how long it lasts. You know, that's why Avengers gets the flack that it gets, because it ran out of steam in 2 years. What do you think, King Greek? I mean, what would you consider this game to be a success? What length of time would it take for this to be a successful game?
In general?
In general, you know, considering, well, no, based on time, because personally, it's already a success to me just because of they're coming out the gate implementing stuff that no other game has done and that other games have failed to do. So it's already a success by those numbers. And then, of course, its success is going to be judged by the sales, you know, the amount of money they make. That's going to be, you know, how the the mother company, how WB judges its success based on the money it makes. But if we're just talking longevity, all right, if we're just talking length of time, what would you how long would this game need to last in order for it to be successful from your point of view?
I would say around, just knowing how like other games like in the past have kind of ended up, I would more so say like what, maybe 3 years, 4 years, if it can make if it can make it that far. Because again, I agree with you. Everything else that we've already seen to this point is good. It has a lot of the stuff that a lot of other live service games don't get either at launch or for years later.
Right.
Like, dude, we don't need to bring up how long it took for Destiny 2 to get loadouts. The sales have to be good, and the post-launch content has to be there. Everything else is fine. Those two are the last deciding factors that are probably going to give us like a real insight into just how long the game can last. Now, from our personal standpoint, this has got to last longer than Avengers, which is 2 years.
Right. Exactly. And me personally, that's my expectations. I'm saying 3 years, give me 3 years and I'm satisfied. Of course, I'd like it to last forever, but I think a realistic expectation is 3 years as well. Alex, what do you think?
All right, hot takes. I agree. I like how you said it, because I think sales obviously matter, and because you're paying full price and then it's a live service game, if it sells say 6, 7, 8 million and then it dies after however long, you could still spin it as a success. I'm sure they would, and I think it is if you sell that many.
Sure.
So that's one thing. Second thing, 2 years minimum, and it needs to be strong. And I guess what I mean by that, you would need to know like player-based numbers, and you would need to see, like, Avengers lasted 2 years, but it really didn't. And I guess that comes from somebody who, you guys know far more, and you actually played it longer than me. Avengers, I feel like in the zeitgeist, lasted a few months, and then nobody really, besides like the core, people did not care past that. So it lasted 2 years, but it didn't really. Like Dead by Daylight is like on 7 years, and it actually is 7. It's not like dead and it's crawling. You know what I mean? And that's the controversial part. So I think 2 years, if it's strong, you could say it's a success. 3 years would be mine. But like, strong is a subjective word. Anything less than a year is a complete and utter failure to me.
Absolutely.
I don't care if it sells 20 million, because if it sells 20 million, which is not going to happen, if it sells 8 million and then it dies after a year, that message is that people bought it for the base game and they don't want the live service. That would be my takeaway. And I hope that's what they would take away from it. So that's my opinion. There's no way it's going to, I'm telling, and this is not to attack comments, because all you guys seem awesome. No way it lasts 5+ years. I would just absolutely bet it's not going to happen.
I got you. So 5 years would be asking a bit too much.
My jaw would drop, and I would give it an award or something if it lasted that long. Yeah.
Hey, I got you. And that's a tall order, man. Those are big shoes to fill for any live service game.
Yeah.
To go
those are the
years.
ultra successful. Rocket League, Dead by Daylight, any like Apex.
Yep, Warframe. Exactly.
So, any game that's in the top 20 on Steam have been there for like 5+ years. Like, those are a lot of the ones that die are the ones that Knockout City, the dodgeball. I love that game.
Yeah, that was fun.
Lasted like a year and a half. So
exactly. And that's why I keep telling people, just even with what you're saying now, that a lot of people harp on the fact that you can't be a studio that's putting out great single player story games and focusing on live service. But again, when I look at Final Fantasy, they've done both. They put out arguably the greatest single player story games, and then they put out arguably the most successful MMORPG. So that's why I'm saying it can be done. Again, those are big shoes to fill. But with what Rocksteady is starting with, if anybody is capable of, making one of those, 5-year games, I really think starting out, like you said, it needs to maintain its momentum. It needs to be strong for those 2 years. We're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah.
There's something coming out every, 30 days, every 60 days, whatever the case is. Navaflow, in your opinion, how many, because now I'll say this, I can tell you what live service game went out of business before anybody else, and that's the day before. They literally launched the day before and left the day after. Nava, what are your thoughts? How long would this game need to last to be successful?
I'm sorry, can you read that? Kind of cut off.
Okay, I can hear you now.
I don't know if you heard your question.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You didn't hear the question. Okay. What I was saying, in your opinion, Nava Flow, how long would this game need to last to be considered a success in your mind?
At least I would say 3 years. But if they're pumping out content like every 3 months, I honestly see it like going up to like 5 years. If they pump up content like every 3 months, or depending how much they're gonna do it.
Gotcha. And me personally, don't get me wrong, guys. I wish this game could last, because I mean, I'm a grinder. You know, again, I'll play a game, you know, for 10, 15 years. I mean, I'll commit that kind of time to a game. But again, it's got to really be good. It's got to have a lot of momentum. It's got to keep you engaged. You know, new story arcs, new expansions have got to be dropping throughout the process. Because if we look at some of these games that have had that kind of longevity, I mean, they're building, you know, expansions that are just as big as the initial base game. You know, every 2 years, they're dropping like a huge expansion. So it's possible, but again, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of money. That's why I initially said I was concerned when they talked about free DLC, because you have to monetize a live service game the correct way in order to keep funding the development team, keep funding the people who are implementing these changes. So again, you know, we got to support it, you know, but at the same time, they've got to be really careful on how they execute the monetization on this game. As we kind of near a close, because we're coming up on the last 4 minutes, and this has been some really good stuff tonight, Chad. I'm super excited. And we didn't even get into the whole thing about parsers after the service or after the fight, which are after mission reports, you know, where it kind of runs the stats over who did the most damage, you know, some little fun ways just to kind of have friendly competitions between, you know, your squad. But again, there's so much they packed into this game. But what would be some of your final thoughts? And me personally, just kind of giving my final thoughts, I think that somewhere between the 15th of this month and the 17th of this month, that we'll see Suicide Squad Insider. I'm thinking somewhere between Monday and Wednesday, we'll see episode 3. What are some of your closing thoughts, Alex, overall?
Controversial. It's a very controversial game. And like, this is why I think you need to talk about it and have these and it's not to shill, or it's not to even like boost people up. There's a little bit more nuance to this game. You know, I get the people that don't like it. It's not meant for everybody. I'm not even on the full side of like, you have to just shut up about it. Like, there's definitely, this is a team that made an incredible series and then they pivoted hard. And I don't think you have to like that. But can you give it like an honest look? Can you talk about it? Yeah, I think you can actually do. I just don't think the internet's really capable sometimes. But I'm excited. Like, I'm legitimately excited for the story. I want to see if the gameplay, but my main thing, firing it up day one, can the gameplay hold me through the base game and then the story and all that stuff? And then it's a whole different discussion for me after that. And I don't really even care. Like, and that's what my message I've tried to get through to people's heads. If I don't play it 3 months from now, that's not that bad for me.
Gotcha.
That would be a failure for the game if like everybody did that, but I don't really care. And I think that's, again, the nuance that everybody's different. Like you two, you three, you guys could be playing this game for years. I could stop in March, but that doesn't, I'm not jealous. I'm not upset. I'm not, you know, that's fine. And it's really one of the only games that can make you talk about, you know, things like this.
Right. Absolutely. And I get it. I get what you're saying. You know, it's the thing, again, like we were talking about before we actually came on live for the podcast. If you openly say you like anything about it, people come for you.
Yeah.
Even when the whole time you're listing what some of your concerns may be going into it, all they're hearing is the positives.
Yeah.
And people are on the attack if you even say you're buying the game. So,
Right.
you know, it's crazy. Me personally, again, I'm here for it. But like you said, at the same token, we ought to be able to have our differences of opinions and what we spend our time playing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take away from how amazing a game may be. It just may mean that, you know, that's just not your cup of tea. With me,
Right.
I'm like that with Fortnite. I'll tell people all the time, I've never played Fortnite. I don't have any desire to play Fortnite, but I tip my hat to Fortnite
Oh, yeah.
because if they were to give Fortnite Game of the Year for every year from now on consistently, I wouldn't argue with it because they've been great at execution, doing crossovers, and you know, it's not my thing, but I respect the people who play it. King Greek, what are some of your closing thoughts about Suicide Squad?
As always, don't listen to any other creators. Don't listen to any other reviewers. For damn sure, don't listen to IGN, who have reposted the same tweet 3 times in 24 hours.
They're good at
Judge the game judge
real.
the game for yourself, and that is really the only time you'll know if whether or not you'll like it. Because out of everything that we named here, keep this in mind. Even if you're still kind of judging on the gameplay, remember this: the fact that this game has a lot of features that people ask for in other live service games, but it takes them a very long time to get. That shows that Rocksteady is doing their best to not only listen to the community, but are trying to not repeat the sins of past games. So that right there should inspire enough confidence to, at the very least, give them a chance.
Absolutely. They are committed. Exactly. They're committed to implementing, doing something different, and they took a risk. And I think that's the thing that I like the most about this game is that they took a risk. You know, they're allowing us to play as the villains. I mean, I've waited for years to have this opportunity, you know, to have this perspective. And then coming along with that, whoever had the idea to implement the Batman mission where he's basically tracking you. I mean, the anxiety that I had playing the game during that, not knowing where he's going to pop out at, you're walking through dark corners. But the first time they do a great job of giving us the perspective of what it feels like to be on the opposite end of Batman, you know, so that was just brilliant. It was one of the funnest things I've ever done with that mission. Novel Flow, what are your closing thoughts, man, about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League?
Like for first things, like for the people like hella negative for this game that it's not a Superman game, guys, relax. They just like, honestly relax in general. It's like it's the game they decided to make. They never started working on no Superman game. Stop those rumors. Just relax. It is what it is. The game's coming out in like less than 2 weeks. And yeah, just try to have fun with it. If you guys don't want to get it full price, just wait on a sale.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, you're not obligated anybody to buy it initially when it launches. Like, if you want to sit back and spectate, I mean, that's cool. If you want to watch some friends play it, you kind of want to see how some of the reviews are, you know, 30 days down the road, that's perfectly fine. You'll have the opportunity to do that. And I think that the cool thing about the way that they're doing the DLC and stuff is that none of that'll ever go away. You'll always have an opportunity to go back and, you know, earn those items or whatever the case is. So I think that's really, really cool if you get it, of course, you know. So I'm super excited about that. Again, listen, I want to thank everybody for their time. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you're watching on Twitch or if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, and hit the like button because it helps the algorithm when we do that. So listen, this is episode 4 of State of Suicide Squad. I want to give a special shout out and thanks again to Alex, aka Podcast Now. Also, to my guy who came, Novel Flow, who is here with us as well. Thank you so much. King Greek, who came again. Thank you so much for being available. Again, this is Deeper Depths and the cast signing out. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. Have a good one. Peace.